Good morning. Welcome to day 4 of week 2. And this week is all about attachment, letting your identity take root. Last week was about conception. This week is about attachment through repetition and nourishment choices and structure. So today's truth that we're going to focus on is your belief can either burn you out or build you. Some of you believe God for that big change, and that requires that big effort, and it can exhaust you before the real transformation take place. So we're shifting that. I want for us to talk about that unhealthy pattern of believing big change require big effort. So because of that belief, it is just easy to say I have to overhaul everything. I have to do it perfectly. I have to go all in or it won't work. But the truth is, you can start in strong, you pushing hard, you overextend, and then crash. But I just want you to understand, like, the scientific backing behind it. When you have the extreme change, your body enters into the stress response. Remember when we were talking about environment matters? The cortisol spikes. It causes your nervous system to dysregulate, and then your energy begin to crash, and you begin to look at it as a threat and not a goal. Your body shuts down. And it's all because you demanded that sudden change. So, under the pressure, your prefrontal cortex, and I looked this up, is the part of your brain that is responsible for the clarity that shuts down too. So when it comes to discernment, you're not really using it. Your amygdala, the fear center, takes over. And so you won't be able to hear as clearly. You begin to feel overwhelmed, and you try to force growth instead of just allowing it to happen over time. And when it comes to preparedness, habits are formed through repetition, not intensity, not all at one time. It's through repetition, and through that and when you have that extreme effort, it naturally brings inconsistency, you up and down, up and down, up and down. And that breaks your structure from being consistent, creating a habit. And so structure collapse under pressure. So when you build on pressure instead of just habits, then that's what ends up happening. You begin naturally to be inconsistent, unless you're some kind of star athlete, Olympian. And even to get to that point, it requires consistency, habits, and doing the tough things. So either way, we all can agree that you have to be consistent. It has to be something that you could do consistently daily. It can't be something that will end up breaking later. So the consequences is that you feel overwhelmed, and that leads naturally to early burnt out. So and that's only when you believe that big change requires big effort. And so something to just giving you something to think about is something called allostatic load. And that is when your body accumulates stress when you push too hard, too fast. And it always leads to fatigue. It leads to irritability, and even cause you to emotionally collapse. So, and again, the prefrontal, just something to think about, the consequence part of it. When you're feeling overwhelmed, the prefrontal cortex, as I talked about, it shuts down. And you can't think as clearly. You cannot plan as well. And it's hard for you to stabilize. And then the nervous system dysregulation, your body enter into fight or flight. And so your energy drains, you begin again to be destabilized in your emotion. And so you feeling overwhelmed. And it's your biological response to the pressure. So we want to shift that. We want to shift that. We talked about the consequences. Now we want to shift that. What I would like for you to focus on is honoring the power of small, repetitive shifts. And so growth, it doesn't come from intensity, but it comes from consistency. And so the scientific backing for that is neuroplasticity. And that is when your brain rewires through the repetition. It happens through repetition, not pressure. Say it with me. It happens through repetition, not pressure. And even you'll begin to have a dopamine reward loop. As you get these small wins, it releases that dopamine. And that's like a motivational chemical. It keeps you moving forward. And then homeostasis. And that's when your body begins to stabilize because the change is gradual. And you have shifts that support your healing. Your brain and your body begins to work together. And you begin to make really good choices consistently. You begin to be more obedient to the small things, which sharpens your clarity. And then you begin to just have your routine set up, the small routine set up. And it's unshakable because you set up a strong a structure. The more you do it, the more stabilized you are. And so you become a person who grows steadily. You become someone that created really good habits through repetition because your brain is saying, yeah, this is who you are now. And then you begin to have like small wins, which cause you to build your confidence. And that helps you be even more consistent. And then your nervous system is operating, with stability. It's regulated. It's not feeling pressured. You don't feel rushed. You don't feel forced. You don't feel like you have to prove something. You're just growing with wisdom. You're growing with God. And so, speaking of the Lord, what does the Bible even talk about when it comes to steady growth? And I not sure if I'm pronouncing it right, but it's miyat. And it means little by little. And that is mentioned in Exodus chapter 23, verse 30. And that phrase in the Bible is Hebrew, because it's from the Old Testament. And that one word means bit by bit, measure by measure, steady unfolding, a growth that compounds every time. So it talks about in the Word of God. God told Israel he would give them the land little by little. Not because he was withholding the land, but he was protecting their capacity. So if he gave it to them all at one time, they would collapse from the weight of it all. But little by little, miyat is building the strength, stability, and stewardship over time. So there is a Greek word called asano. I might be pronouncing it wrong, but it means to grow, to increase, to become strong. And that word is usually used for when the plants grow, when your faith grow, even in the situation when the early church was growing, and even with maturity for us, it's growing. The key thing is when you look at azazano, it's always gradual. It's always progressive. It's always steady. It is never rushed. So when you look at growth in the Bible, it's not explosive. It is compounding. It's not dramatic. It is developing. It's not overwhelming, but it is in order. So that is why I want you to really think about today's insight is that you're someone who grows steadily. Because God grows things steadily. And so when we want to look at discernment, we want to look at what are the common breaches, what are the things that could lead to burnout, and again, inconsistency, it damages you. It breaks your momentum. It distorts your discernment because you can't hear clearly. And so it keeps you inconsistent. And then it weakens your structure. Your routine is not able to be consistent because you're starting and restarting. And so inconsistency is rooted in unbelief to a certain extent. If you believe that the small things don't matter, it could hinder you greatly. So just understand that the small things do matter. They matter in deeply, spiritually, physically, structurally, it matters. So just look at in all the areas we're talking about with nourishment, discernment, and preparedness. We have to understand that the small choices that we make actually over time creates the big results. So you don't need a dramatic overhaul. You don't need a huge perfect plan and doing it perfectly. You don't need a massive shift. You just need to make wise decisions daily. Good repeated choices. Stick to the structure that God released to you. And so you will begin to see the craving shift if you stick to it. You begin to see your digestion get better if you stick to it. Your energy stabilize if you stick to it. Clarity increase if you stick to it. And then your nervous system calm down if you stick to the structure. Your body is not asking for intensity. It's asking for consistency with the right choices. So join if you're ready to grow steadily and break the cycle of burnout. If you're ready to build a lifestyle that supports what you want to do, join the Healing Through Nourishment 4-week coaching program. It starts on Monday, renews every Monday, so you can fill out application on Healing Through Nourishment.com. And before we close, if you're not saved or you're unsure, this is your moment because everything that I'm talking about is built on the foundation of Jesus. So I would like for you to just have a moment, pause, and just ask, let the Lord know that you're coming to Him today and repenting for every pattern of unbelief, striving, burnt out, and turning away from any other type of unbelief. And just asking the Lord to release His grace, ask Him to release His rest, because He gives rest to His beloved, and allow for you to be in the point where you can receive your early growth, your steady growth, and just ask the Lord to make you new, make you more like Him, strengthen you, lead you, direct you, and just know that in the process, just believe that Jesus is the Son of God. God came in flesh, came up with a plan so that we won't get what we deserve, because we all have sinned, and everyone that sinned against God deserved to go to hell. But because of Jesus, because God had a plan to come in flesh Himself, wrap Himself in flesh to save us, shed His blood, it'll allow for us to be cleansed, and we can be a part of the family of God legally. How great is that? So pray that prayer, make it personal, and welcome home, and thank you for showing up today. Every time you show up, you're telling your future, I want to grow steadily. And again, if you're looking for the daily structure, the kind that protects your growth and prevents the burnout, join the Healing Through Nourishment 4-week coaching program. And I want to honor our sponsor, Dr. Stella. Preparedness is nourishment. Preparedness is protection. Preparedness is steady growth. If you want to fortify your home in this season, you can use my special link to shop her full wellness store. It is in the description box. I see you tomorrow at 6 a.m. for day 5 of week 2 journey. So stay nourished, stay aligned, grow steady, so you can live strong, stay covered, and be prepared.